I called him out on it because, well, it's dishonest. I don't like dishonesty, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm the number one realtor on these 3 streets." But I was like, "But that's I mean, to me, that's total dishonesty."
Today's episode is brought to you by Andy Bovender, the founder of the Bovender team out of the Carolinas. Him and his team have helped more than 5,000 families. So if you have that client who's been thinking about making a move to or from that area, they are the team to call. Today's conversation is with Alyssa Curran, and we talk about her success, her marketing strategies, and we just really have a genuine heart-to-heart about different ways agents can grow and scale their business. So stay tuned for that. If you'd like to actually hang out with her and other amazing past guests like her, take a look at the link below for the Inner Circle group. It's a group that meets twice a month, and we talk about ways to grow our business, some of the challenges that we're having, and we get peer coaching for that. And we also share some referrals. So again, follow the link to check that out. And as always, I'm your referral partner out of San Francisco, Shawn Kunkler. So my dad started 3 different companies, and he started the last one when I was 5. So I grew up more or less in a machine shop. And then as I got older and started working, I eventually got into an apprenticeship. And then it's like a whole bunch of actual application hours, and then there's classroom hours. And then
Mhm.
eventually when you get all your certifications, you become a journeyman. And I genuinely feel that experience is so incredibly important. And it's the one thing that this industry is 100% missing,
Right?
because we're dealing with, I mean, you and I know we're dealing with people's, more often than not, their number one investment.
Mhm.
And you can do it with basically just by
2 weeks
passing,
of basically yeah. Yeah. It's
which is
not right.
crazy.
Right. Well, I think it don't tip I know around here you have to as an appraiser, you have to kinda go through and kind of the same idea, be an apprentice, get certain hours of experience, and lately, some of the transactions, I feel like in 2020, there was so many people that joined our business, our profession of being
Yeah.
a broker because it was easy,
Yeah.
right? Like, it was easy, quick money. Now that it's a tough real estate year,
Yeah.
a lot of those people have had to move on, but at the same time, like, y this is where a seasoned realtor really can get a step up. I feel like one of the things we struggle with in our profession is explaining our value. And some of
Yeah.
that I feel like would be removed if we had younger brokers shadow more seasoned brokers because then the
Yeah.
public isn't getting bad experiences with specific brokers, right? Which I mean, if you have one bad experience, then you're like, "Well, what I can do that. Why do I do that? I'm just gonna pay the least amount of money possible to get what I need because my last experience was not good."
I completely agree. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's why people sell their homes by themselves. They
Yeah.
don't see the value. They think
Yeah.
either A, I'm going to save the money, or B, I worked with some clown who was so terrible, I should just do it myself. And
Really, it's
like got
true.
them there to that point. Um, yeah. And I think we're both in contract to close states. And so you don't have an attorney looking over your shoulder. And so as an agent, you sometimes just have to know how to look for things and spot things in the disclosure, and that's through experience.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I was in a transaction that in Washington State, you cannot provide any part of the inspection unless the seller asks it, or else that person waives their right to ask for anything, right?
oh,
Well,
interesting.
this agent, like, there's a form you have to fill out that says, "I just want the areas that you requested," or, "I want the whole thing." Well, this agent just sent over this addendum with, basically an inspection that another person had done, and I was like, "Okay, what do I do here?" Right? Like, a part of me could have been, like, this huge jerk, right? And just be like, "Look, we're not even gonna you screwed up, like, we're gonna whatever."
Yeah.
Just, we're going to take you for all you're worth, and you're going to have to, as the realtor, pay for all these things. It was a small thing, but I had to take that realtor aside and be like, look, you need to be aware. Like, my sellers are great people. They want to make it right, but if I had mean sellers, you 100% would be paying for all these repairs and would likely be sued because of this small thing that you weren't aware of, right? And those type of things, I mean, I see them more and more, and it's kind of a bummer, really.
Yeah.
But that's the value of finding an agent that you kind of wanna, I don't know, be like, so to speak. When I first became a realtor, I worked for a lady named Jean Tanner in Utah, and I just graduated college, and I became her, office manager. And
Smart.
little did I know how valuable that experience was for me,
Yeah.
because she was a Mike Ferry agent. She had systems in place. I mean, I look back now and realize how great that was. That was like a
Yeah.
life-changing moment for me to see how she ran her business. And not everybody gets that, right? Like, I don't even understand how agents can just get their license and just be like, "Oh, I'm ready." It just doesn't work.
Not only the aspect of like, and I say this all the time, I think the bar of entry to get into this industry is so low that most people trip over it, which is sad. And then the other part is you can sit on a license for years and not do anything.
Mhm. And then you say, "Oh, I've got 15 years of experience."
Yeah, and
Well,
you're like, "Well, how many deals did you do?" And they're like, "1." You're like, "So you're brand new."
right. Right.
And and that's the other thing that's super frustrating to me, and it was when I got into the business, is like the agents who pontificate, they're like, "Well, I've been doing this for 20 years." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, "Man, you either have sucked for 20 years or you've never done this. This is crazy."
Like,
Like,
truly.
like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Like, there's no correlation between expertise in years.
Yeah. 100%. And I don't think the average consumer understands that. And the other thing that
No.
drives me crazy around here is everybody will say, I'm the best, right? Like, I'm the number one realtor
Uh,
in this. I have this one realtor in our area that is like that. And I called him out on it because, well, it's dishonest. I don't like dishonesty, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm the number one realtor on these 3 streets." But I was like, "But that's I mean, to me, that's total dishonesty, right?" And
100%.
so he started putting a little, like, caveat on the bottom, like, a little asterisk, but that's still he's still doing that. And again,
Ugh.
if I had, like, time or energy, I'd probably do something about it, but he's not competition, so to speak, and so I don't, but it still bothers me because it's representative of our industry.
Hey, friends, I have a small favor to ask. For me to continue to bring you outstanding guests who share their best kept secrets for growing a successful real estate business, please take a moment and hit that like button so agents like you can find this content. And also hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Now, back to our show. It casts a shadow on the industry. The other one that just it pisses me off to no end, and you see it all the time, and I actually wish we can just eradicate the word, but agents put, "Oh, I'm a luxury agent."
Oh my gosh.
And you're like,
Yes.
"What does that mean for," like, there's no actual tangible definition for starters, and
Right.
then you have your highest sale is half of the median price in your area. Like, what
Right.
was luxury? Like, is it an experience that you're pitching as luxury? Is it a price point? Like, what is luxury? It's
Yeah.
it's it's the weirdest it's the weirdest thing, and it's like a barrage of people. I mean, we were talking about how silly titles are to start with, so we're
Yeah.
probably on the same
Yeah.
page with this, but it's one of those things that it drives me as crazy as agents who put 1%, and it's like the same thing. You're like, "Well, 1% of what?" And you're like, "You're not 1% in the city." And they're like, or or the neighborhood. Well, I'm 1% of this. On this street, on the 300 block, I'm
Yeah.
1%. And you're like,
Yeah.
congratulations, you're also 1% in the stupid category.
It's true. It's kinda I mean, it's kinda true. I do that American Dream TV thing. I'm sure
Mm,
probably you see agents around there. Yeah.
yeah,
I did it initially because I was looking into video and it costs less for me to do video that way than to now people do video all over the place. So
yeah,
there's more of a market for it. Um, but I thought, okay, this is gonna push me like I like to push myself and level up, so to speak.
sure.
But I was talking to the or the videographer who I've become really good friends with, and he said, "Well, I was talking to your buyer's agent about buying." And I was like, "Well, why didn't you ask me about it?" He's like, "Well, I didn't think you did our price points." And we had this whole
Yeah,
conversation about he's like, "I thought you only did like luxury stuff." I was like, and I almost got upset. I was like, "No. Like luxury to a first-time home buyer at a 300, 400, $500,000 price point, that's their luxury. Like, that's pretty
yeah,
special for them to be able to get into a home that they can call their own. My lender was telling me the other day that, he got a family of 6 into an 1,800 square foot home. They had to, draw from all the family members to be able to get into it, but
wow.
imagine how those people felt walking into the home that first night, having a pizza like, a pizza party and thinking, this belongs to us." That to me is luxury,
That's huge. Like,
like
what a beautiful gift for, like, to be able to help facilitate that.
right. So and then you have I mean, I do work in higher price points as well, but those people, yeah, it's a luxury in terms of it costs more,
Yeah,
but it doesn't almost mean as much, right? Like, because it just, "Oh, it's another couple million bucks. What? Sure, But to these people
yeah,
that are buying this small home, like that's luxury. Like the ability to buy a home in America is a luxury that I feel like less and less more people are able to do, and
I
really
agree.
that I like to advocate for. So,
I mean, I agree. My business partner, Nancy, yesterday, we wrote $5 million in offers. We got
that's
none.
amazing.
None were accepted. The
Oh
bulk
my
the bulk were between on these properties, 7 to 20 offers came in. So, like, pretty aggressive competition.
what
Now,
was the price point?
there was 2 offers. So, in the
Yeah.
in the in the 2 to 3 range.
Wow.
Um, and and then within that, I would say half of the offers, and this is based on the agent feedback, those were cash. And so it's a tricky it's there is definitely a divide happening between
Mhm.
the ones with a very healthy amount of cash and those without. And then when you start looking at maybe a 10% down and creative financing and it's competitive, it's just
That's
the
so
sell
difficult.
it's so difficult. The seller wants a low risk and a fast close. I mean,
Yeah.
cash, it's hard to deny. Cash is king. It's like 5-day close, no contingencies. They just cherry pick it. Like
Okay, I
it
know. It's
if
true, and they
it
can.
and it makes financial sense to do that. It's not it's based on just math and logic at that point. It's not a
Mhm.
personal, and so it's interesting. There's definitely it becomes, to your point, way far more rewarding working with the family of 6 who is just doing everything they can to make it work, and they make it
Yes.
work, and you're just like, right
I mean,
on.
it's
Like, you're just
harder, right? Like, it's harder for me as the
yeah.
agent and for the lender, but that's a luxury to them that and I was talking to another gal yesterday who, is thinking about buying a home with her boyfriend, but I was like, "Well, but you should buy one too." Like, if you guys don't get married and you have the ability, you should buy something because I think having a home is one of the most important ways to build wealth in America.
Yeah.
Like, it will, if you hold on to it and rent it out, like it will, I mean, I look at how my family has built, I mean, we're not wealthy, but that's where the majority of our kind of like equity, having that equity has
Mhm.
created a huge amount of like stability that we can draw upon if we ever really, needed to or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is if you just go back and look at any historical data on property values on a long enough timeline, they all go up significantly. Like my
Mhm.
grandparents paid 10 grand for a house in I think the late 40s.
So crazy,
Like it's
right?
crazy to think
My
about,
I think my parents paid like $16,000 for their first house. Like,
which is
so
it's wild. It's
and
wild.
someday we'll look back at, like, what we did. I mean, I do that from 10 years ago. I bought a house, I think, for, like, 280. I mean, now that would probably be 600,000, but having that kinda house for 280 grand is just, like, mind-boggling to me now. It's
It's wild.
just yeah, yeah.
But it's
Okay, I
like,
wanna pivot.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
for it. Go
I
for it.
want your take on all the social media that realtors are doing. Valuable or not valuable?
Oh my goodness, all of it at once. Just let
Yes,
me
go. Right
let's
now.
see, there's 2.5 million agents in the nation. Each of them are posting one a day. So I'm talking about a billion posts
Yeah.
and you want all of it all at once.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm curious because right
just
now, right, like, right now, you go on Instagram, and I can see
yeah,
video after video of agents,
yeah. I think it's a
making
great
and
question.
sometimes I wonder, does it really sell the house? So I'm
Yeah.
curious what your I mean, I have my opinion on it, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
reserve that till after I hear your opinion, but,
Yeah.
like, do you think it's a valuable thing? Like, what I guess I'm asking you, what value do you think social media brings for
Oh,
us
good.
in the industry?
I think it's a great question. I think it's a really complex question. I think marketing is a tool and it's something that every business and company has to do in some capacity, branding and marketing. I think to kind of go back to your point about luxury, I think it's risky if you don't understand your avatars of who your ideal
Mhm.
client is and who you are as an individual. Because if you're showing me a $60,000 house, but everything you're saying is luxury, there's a market to message mismatch.
Right.
And you're not going to attract the right people who are predisposed to buy the thing through you.
I like that. The market to message. I think that's something in our industry I think we need to dial in a little bit so people actually believe us when we're talking.
Agreed, and let me give you a really simple example that
Mhm.
I will rant to no end on, is everybody should have a CRM, period. CRM exclamation point, I should say. Within that, your CRM should be segmented, and what segmenting is you should have a category of buyers, you should have a category of sellers, you should have a category of agents, local, feeder markets, and then national. And then you should also have your sphere, which then encompasses people who just know you, friends, family, vendors, kind of everybody else, right? They're not specifically buyers, they're not specifically sellers. And within that, the thing that's important to them is different. All of them are very different, right?
Mhm.
The thing that's important to an agent is maybe a conversation with somebody like you who's been in the business for a while, has a lot to share, a lot of knowledge, and you can glean a lot from, right? That's what the agent listening to this podcast, that's what they're yearning for, right? The buyer, they want to know if it's a good time to buy. Can they get a deal?
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
it a good property? That's what they care about. They want to also get it at the lowest price possible. The
Right.
seller,
Everybody wants
seller's
to.
the opposite. Is now the best time to sell? Can I get the highest price possible? So having the
Mhm.
same message to both parties, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot,
Right.
right? It's like having two
100%.
kids. If you have two kids, they have two different personalities. One may receive love through affection, through like touch, and the other
Mhm.
one may receive love by time spent. And if you
Mhm.
mix the two, they're not gonna feel loved and connected to you in the same way. And so
Right.
you need to cater to the person. It's like going to a different country, going to Italy. I remember I was in Italy for a month and it was towards the end of the trip, so I heard a lot of Italian, but I was in this bar, and at the end of the bar, I heard somebody speaking English, and I remember I popped up and I was like, "Oh, a friend," because it was
Right?
familiar. And so
Yes.
with marketing, you really wanna segment and cater to the right groups. And so nothing pisses me off more than getting, "Hey, I have an open house this weekend in Wisconsin. Come by from 2 to 4." And you're like, "Dude, I'm in San Francisco." Like,
Right.
market to message mismatch.
Yeah.
And so segmenting is super important. And then parlay that into social media. Who's your audience? What's your
Mhm.
platform? What are you trying to communicate? And so it's like, if you're on LinkedIn, it should be more reports and business
Mhm.
focus because that's the natural audience of that natural platform. If it's Instagram, I think if you're trying to cater to buyers and sellers, you're going to miss them. If you're catering to agents for referrals, you're going to hit them because
Oh,
the
yeah.
people looking
Oh,
at
that's a great point
properties.
because I feel like that's all that's on Instagram are agents, right? Like,
Right, and
yeah.
who just virtue of algorithms, if you're looking at properties every day and I'm looking at properties every day, what's the common thread? We're both agents, and so the
Yeah.
algorithm knows that, and so the content should actually be for the agent, and
Mm.
so then
I will say though, like, I have received, business from people who have been on my Instagram and seen videos because of the marketing. Like, brokers, that's one of the most important skills we can have is our ability to market, right?
100%.
So and I feel like that's kind of I mean, that's one of the things when I talk about my value proposition that I really come down hard on is like, I
Yeah,
know how to market the property. I know how to read the room. I know
yeah,
the audience, and I know how to create a marketing like, my favorite this is one of my favorites. It was and I should post it again. So well, I think it's tagged on my, Instagram. But it was this house that we went to into '70s, right? Like, nothing has been changed. The orange carpet, the orange countertops that are linoleum. I mean, it was in pristine, perfect '70s condition. And I was like, "Let's lean into it. This is gonna
yeah,
be so fun to market." I mean, it's not like this $4 million property, but it doesn't matter, right? It's
totally,
it's just so fun to create a product for somebody, a seller, that they're gonna look back and say, "That's my house. I love that." So we decided I was like I texted my videographer, I'm like, "We're gonna do Wonder Years. We're gonna create a
hell
Wonder
yeah,
Years." Oh
that's
my
so
gosh, you
funny.
have to watch it, and to this day I mean, I've sold really nice homes, I've sold but it is one of and I had the girls that work for me come, I'm like, "We're all gonna wear '70s outfits, bring roller skates." I got
Heck
some
yeah,
wigs. I didn't end up using the wigs, but we went all in
yeah,
for this, and to this I mean, it's because it brings nostalgia, right?
yeah,
Like, and that I feel like Instagram is when I think of, like, my what I try and do on Instagram, it's
yeah,
like, 1, display the kind of marketing that I do, um, and 2, I also think, and I need to do better at it, is people wanna know me because you are your product, right? We are our product.
yes,
The knowledge is built over time, but, I mean, selling a house is stressful, and so if
yeah,
people feel like they can trust me and know me, then I think that's the other kind of avenue that
yeah.
that it does. But you're right, like, sometimes I wanna post, like, crazy funny things, and I'm like, "Well, wait, does that appeal to the audience that I'm seeking?" And I have to be careful of that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a dance in figuring out who the audience is, but in on social media, entertaining,
Yes.
funny supersedes everything. And it sounds like with your '70s home, you tapped into novelty.
Yes.
And right before it's funny, I usually before I record, I'm usually eating for starters, but then I'm usually playing music super loud. And I was actually
Uh-huh.
playing Joe Cocker Um,
Oh, there you
and
go.
so, like, I was thinking about Winnie from Wonder Years because, and so it's
No
weird
way.
that you
Oh
mentioned
my
that.
gosh. So you have to watch this or you have to post it with the podcast or something because it is, I
Shoot it
mean,
to
it's
me.
and some of my team members, my youngest one, she has never even seen Wonder Years. It was so fun. I'm like, how can you not know Wonder Years? So of course, it is really hard to get on all the streaming. So
I
that needs to be revived, I
Yeah,
think.
that's weird. I
Yeah.
wonder. Oh my gosh. I mean, so
Such a
many
great show,
memories.
right?
Um, and I think, to rewind slightly, you made such a great point. And I genuinely believe this. We're marketing companies that also sell real estate,
Mhm.
and we so quickly lose sight of that. That we
Mhm.
need to. We're constantly promoting properties while simultaneously promoting ourselves. And
Yeah.
then to your point, putting a highlight on different things, either our market knowledge or why they should hire us and these other additional layers. And so it's definitely an art. And so to answer your question in short, after my long-winded ramble, is I think some agents really do. I do a really shitty job on Instagram. My focus is
Well, but
more.
look, you do this podcast. Holy
I
cow.
do podcasts and newsletter. So my
Yeah,
newsletter, I will. The thing that I'm super proud about with this newsletter, which when I tell you, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, that's amazing." The newsletter gets sent out to about, I'll have to look at the numbers. I think it's 13 or 14,000 specifically right now, agents.
that's
It's
pretty
catered specifically to
phenomenal.
agents, and then we average a 94 to 96% open rate.
That's pretty cool, actually.
That's
'Cause I'll be honest, a
crazy.
lot of times I mean, what what profession gets as many sales calls, as many, like, fish like, all of it? I feel like realtors just I don't know. So, there's so many that I just kinda scroll beyond, so that's very impressive. Good job by you.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
that goes back to the point of, like, that specific person who's receiving that specific piece of direct marketing, it needs to specifically help them with a hyper specific problem. Like, whatever that thing is that's keeping them up at night, that's the thing that needs to be served up to them. And
Yeah.
so, uh, but I think it should be, it's like your marketing touches on all these other things. That should be the one piece that you kinda continue to go back to over and over and over, and then you have other branding components and other things like that. But that's kinda
I think
my thought in summary.
yeah, I feel like the one thing I was on some panel about a year ago, and ironically, it was about luxury stuff, but it was interesting as I sat there, the whole day was about media, the focus now that we have, like, we need to be doing video, we need to be doing media, but a part of me was like "I wanna just back up a second and be like, there's the longer I am in this business, there's no, like, A plus B equals C, right?
No.
Like, you do what's best for you. You find your niche. And so, yes, you can listen to all of us and be like, "Okay, this is what they're doing, this works for them." But I think the most important thing that people need to learn is, like, authenticity is what really especially in this world of AI that's becoming so I mean,
Yes.
real people, real connection,
Yeah.
that's what people want in
Yeah.
who they're going to trust their biggest purchase with.
Yeah, they want I mean, there was a wonderful sales manager I had years ago, Anita, and I'm in San Francisco, and so it's a mixed bag of nuts, and I remember in a meeting, she's like, "You know what? You have to let your freak flag wave.
Mm,
Whoever you are, that's who you're gonna attract, but you have to just be that and put it out there."
but it
And
has to be tasteful too. I will say that
sure,
because I do think sometimes people cross a line with that, and I'm like,
I completely agree,
do they
especially
think that that's gonna make them, you know, sellable? I don't know.
I mean,
Anyway,
maybe. I mean, I there's an
it's
ass
true.
for every seat.
To each
It's
their
like,
own.
who
You're right.
knows? I
Yeah,
mean, maybe it's like, maybe the loose cannon really wants to work with that specific person.
you're right. No, that's true.
Um, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I see. Like, you'll never see me doing an in sync lip syncing thing on Instagram. That's
Dang
just
it.
not
I
my.
thought that's how we were like, could close this out.
I thought about it, and then
Bye 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 or whatever. Yeah, I don't even know. I want it that way, something like that. What about a 70s? Maybe the Wonder Years. We can lip sync to
we
the
could
Wonder
do a
Years.
little Joe Cocker
Yeah.
to wrap this up. But I see agents who do the lip syncing, and I'm like, good on them, and they
Yeah.
find their own success
It
doing
is
it,
fun.
and so
Yeah.
I'm like, that's them, that's cool, that's amazing, and I'm sure they see and do like some of the things that
But
I
I
do.
almost think that audience, when you see all the shares, I almost think that's just other agents being like, this is therapy to see, like, oh, this is great, so funny.
Did you ever
I do
see
have
the
another
video?
question.
Oh yeah, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Well, when you're I always like to ask people this. When
Yeah.
when you go to a listing appointment,
Mhm.
as someone that has been in the business a while, how do you sell you without like, I don't like to sit and say, "Well, this is why I'm the best," or "This is why you should use me." So
Yeah,
I kind of just like I'll just like say, here's what I have prepared for you. You can read about me. Everything you want to know about what I've done is online. But
yeah,
we're here to talk about your home and what you need.
yeah,
How do you do that? I mean, because you said to kind of, it made me think of it when you said like marketing, we're marketing ourselves.
yeah.
Like, how do you market yourself, I guess?
That's a great question. If I'm actually sitting down with a person, I don't it's kind of I feel like a magician in a weird way.
Mhm,
It's like, a magician says, like, "Pick a card, any card," but they know you're gonna pick the ace of hearts,
mhm,
and they're gonna shuffle it around and move things around, and at the end of it, they're gonna pull out the ace of hearts and it was like, "This your card?" And I feel like I don't have an A to Z, but I
mhm.
know
I don't
how to
either.
get us from A to Z.
Yeah.
And so I'm a firm
We're problem
believer
solvers, right?
we're
That's what
problem
realtors
solvers.
are.
And I
Yeah.
and I think I do a really like my strong suit is I'm able to enter like I'm good at listening, I'm good at having conversations, and I'm good at listening to the nuances of the conversation. I listen for hesitations or pauses or when they start speeding up or when they sit back for a moment and smile. And I know how to pull more of those experiences out. So I'm really good at connecting on a deeper level with clients, most clients. And so I typically will print 3 books. I'll print out our whole listing process. I'll print out usually all of our stats, like team stats and all of that good stuff. And then I'll do a CMA. And then
Mm,
I generally walk into a property and then I say, "I have all this information I'd love to talk to you about, or would you like to tour your home first? Like, where would you like to begin?" And so we're gonna do both, but I'm putting it in an order that they feel good. And then my rule is never make a point without a story and never tell a story without a point. And so if I'm
mhm.
anytime I'm opening
I
my
like that.
mouth, I'm trying to weave in something that is gonna give them confidence in
Has
my
value.
ability to do the thing that they actually want. And so I ask a
Like you
lot
were
of.
the number one agent on like 3 streets, right?
Yeah, well, I
Like,
always
just
walk
throwing
in,
that
I'm
in there.
like, "Thanks for introducing the number 1 agent, the number 1
You're just
luxury
teasing you.
agent."
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so that's kind of how I approach it, and I, um, I use the DISC personality to kind of read who they are, and then I try to modify what I'm saying to hit on the things that are most important to them and to their personality. Like if they're directors, it's like maybe the person's a CEO and the other
Right,
person's like a high level accountant, then I'm going to back everything up with data. I'm probably going to give a lot of bullet
right.
points.
Engineers,
I work a lot with engineers,
same.
like Apple and Facebook. And so I get it.
They're
Like
data. I
they
mean,
want
they're
data.
just yeah,
It and, they want the data, but they also don't want you to interpret the data. They're smart enough to do it
right,
on their own, so you have to
right.
figure out how to dance around that stuff. And so
I
it's,
always feel like it's a big win if I can get an engineer to kind of smile and like,
me
kind of
too.
like I
I
was, oh, I did it. I did it. I'm funny.
it's so funny if I can get it's usually the engineer and sometimes some of the exact like the D's, the high D's. If I can just get them to crack even just a little bit, I'm like,
Yes, that's so
yes,
funny.
you
I'm
got
like,
it.
okay, I got it. I still got it.
Um, yeah. On the flip side, I had it was a younger couple. The husband, I think it was his second company, and he was young, maybe like all of 30 something. And the whole time he was on the phone. And there was one point, and like I was like, I don't think I got it, so I don't really care anymore. And I said, look, you've been on the phone the whole time. Clearly, this is like not that important to you. Is there anything specific you want me to cover before I leave? And like it changed the whole dynamic of the conversation
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
I don't think people talk to them like that.
Yeah.
And I actually was able to win them over by kind of
You know what
scratching the
though? That's a
record.
good point because, you know, you probably get so many sales calls a day from different people pitching a product, right? When someone calls me and I'm like, I appreciate your hustle. I don't have the time for this call. If you can tell me what the investment is, if you send me an email, I will circle back to you if I'm interested. And when they actually do that and
Yeah.
be like, awesome, I'll do that, then I'm more interested than somebody that keeps reading their script and keeps trying to keep me on the phone to try and then I'm like, well, you just lost me. Like I
Yeah.
just want you to be to the point. I want you to be respectful of my time. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's reading the room, right?
Yeah. And I think there's little things to your point that you can build trust. Like when I show up to an appointment, I show up on time or like
Mhm.
a minute or two early. And sometimes I'll make a joke because I want to call attention to it. Like, hey, sorry, I'm a little too early for our appointment. And just kind of like
Yeah.
ease the moment
Flag it. Yeah, the
and then come
subtleties.
in. Um, or I'll show up on time and say, "As promised, I'm here, right on time, let's go." And
Mhm.
so I'm confirming to them if I say I'm gonna do something or I say something, it's factual. And so I'm always looking for, like, those micro moments to keep stacking on that. And so I don't know, to answer your question, like, I don't know if there's any, like, one thing I do to showcase value. I feel like it's all these little tiny pieces of the puzzle, but I don't know
Right.
the puzzle we're building yet until I get
But that's also
there.
what's great about our business, right? Like I like that no one is ever the same. No transaction is ever the same.
Never.
I mean, that's what's for me, I guess with my ADD and I don't know, but I love that challenge of finding the right way that this person is gonna respond
Yeah.
and making it great for them because that's honestly, like, that's one of the most rewarding things is, like, taking the stress and having them trust me and, like, "I've got you." And especially in
Yeah.
this market, it's really hard to do
Yeah.
that.
Do you know, I recently had Trisha Cook on, and I love her, and so if you haven't had a chance to connect with her, I would highly recommend adding her to your referral network. But she
'Kay.
was saying, and we did a variation of it, we've since changed it, but the moment you start working with a client, basically we now build in our goal is to always deliver a five-star level of service, and if at any point we deviate that from that, please let me know right away so we can course correct. And so
I like that.
you're baking in that, 1, they're gonna have a great experience, and if they don't, they feel comfortable enough raising their hand. But then the second part is when you ask for the review, you've kind
Like,
of already s
"Remember."
you already teed it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But she
No,
also
that's a great
coaches
idea.
she coaches all of her vendors to actually say the same exact thing when they start working
Oh,
together.
so there's continuity between it all, and it makes it more like a team. I
Yeah.
really like that idea
Yeah.
because that's another thing that when I'm sitting at a listing appointment, that's one of the other things I point out, like, you're hiring me, but it's also the relationships with the contractors. My book of
Yeah.
business that people want to work with me because they know, you know, they can trust me. But so if they're saying something like that, I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm gonna take that too. That's really good info.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a nice like, it already builds, it builds an expectation for them.
Mhm.
And then if you obviously back it up by working your tail off, like, it just reinforces that whole point. But again, it
Mm.
also gives permission because deals kinda suck sometimes and things go crazy, and it's like they're outside of our control, but if we're doing our best, they then have the comfort to at least come to you and say, "Hey, this is really sucking right now." And then you can have a heart-to-heart conversation.
So with the market the way that it is, and you probably get this too, I feel like I get a couple of calls a week from different agents in our area, kind of like, what do I need to do? Where do I go?" Like, struggling, like,
Yeah.
it's a hard market,
It's
right? Like,
hard,
and it sounds like
brutal.
maybe your market might be a little bit better than ours, but I mean, it's just not the same, and this is their first experience going through, like, a slower market. What's the advice that you give to people when they're like, "Do I get out? Do I stay in? What do I need to do?"
It's so it's, I love these questions. You should just have a
I'm
podcast.
gonna interview you.
These
This
are
isn't that
great
what you told me to do?
questions.
I thought that's what you were paying me to do on the second
I
day.
love this. You're, like, teeing me up. This is amazing. You make me look
Yeah,
good. So, it's
yeah.
interesting. My son is in college in Southern California, was texting me today saying that he just got a job offer, but he's also in, entrepreneur classes. And the entrepreneur classes, they're like, "Don't get a job after college because it basically consumes the appetite to be an entrepreneur." And then
Oh, interesting.
and I said, "You know, life as I get older, I'm realizing it's about doing really dangerous, risky things in the
Mhm.
safest way possible, so you can have the
Oh, I
longevity to
like that.
learn it." And I gave him the example of he skateboards, and I was like, "When you skateboard, you put on pads and you put on a helmet. And so if you crash, which you're going to, you're doing the dangerous thing as safely as possible." And I said, "So maybe getting the job has some danger because you're going to lose your appetite, but maybe it's giving you enough of a buffer to be a risky entrepreneur because you'll have a
I
base
love that.
to work from." And I said, At the end of the day, you just have to decide what works for you." And so, my advice to these agents is, how do you set it up so you know how much runway you have so you can do this risky thing in the
Mhm.
safest possible way. If you're, if you got a month's worth of savings and you're wondering if you should continue on, you should probably really bail at this point. And so
Right.
I think evaluating your savings to your experience levels to the amount of runway you have, and then putting all of that together and figuring out, do I have the network, the lead pipeline, and the skills to get a deal within a period of time that'll keep me moving forward, or should I just pull the cord and do something else and maybe come back to this at a later date when I have more of that stability? And so that would be like, that's my one side of advice. And then if you're committed and you have the financial wherewithal, I think it's like, the best analogy is sports, is because you
Always
lost the game doesn't make you a loser. And just because you won the game doesn't make you a winner. But how you show up in practice is how you're going to show up when you play. And so the practice in our sport is, are you going to and hosting open houses? Are you meeting people for coffee or lunch? Are you sending out neighborhood reports? Are you working on your CRM? Are you practicing the parts of your business so when the game pops up on your calendar, you actually have an opportunity to win it? And so
Mhm.
when that client says, "Hey, we're thinking about selling," you have all of these other pieces all set up. So you're not trying to figure out how to play the game, and if you're in game shape on the day of the game, you're so tuned
Right.
up.
You're ready to go. Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it, and I think parlayed into that is the mindset of, listen, just because you're having a hard time, that doesn't make you a loser, it just means you're having a hard time. And
Yeah.
so do the if you do the right things at the wrong time, you get failure. Like if you try to plant a crop in the middle of
Mm,
winter, you're not going to get the results of a good harvest. It's just you're
yeah.
doing the right things at the wrong time. And so I think stepping back, evaluating, figuring it out, and then to the earlier point of this conversation is you should attach yourself to an agent who is really savvy, who's not only seen one downturn, but maybe two or three, and they
Right.
can literally take you under their wing and they say, "Hey, you know what? You're
And
really
feed you
smart.
some.
You're
Yeah.
really savvy. I really like what you're doing. This is fine. This is a cycle. Winter doesn't last forever. Night doesn't last forever. It's gonna break. Just stick by my side. We'll get through this."
Mhm.
And so I that's my
I
advice.
like that. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I've told people, like, if it's kinda I love this safety analogy because I think that's great, and with your son, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in my life, like, kind of the curveball that I was given led to meeting certain people that created opportunity, right? So if he
100%.
goes to take this job, I mean, who who knows, like, what
Yeah.
could happen? I mean, I was just, I played volleyball in college, and some of the contacts that I have from even back then, what, 20 some years ago, they are I mean, now they're professionals, right?
Yeah.
And just those relationships that I had even back then, because I'm not good at keeping in touch with people, but because I was genuine and authentic and I've kept those, like, it comes around. Like, you just never know, I guess. And when people are first starting out, they're like, "Well, I just got my license. What should I do?" I mean, I'm barely to the point where I really started to accept people on my team. I've kind of just wanted to do, like, my own thing, but I think I'm
Yeah.
in a different phase of life now where that's changing a little bit, and it's fun to help coach agents,
Yeah.
um but I tell them not to quit their day job, not to quit doing all these other things, and just start opening up the conversations and be like, "Oh, yeah, I could totally help you. Oh, you're looking to move?" You'd be surprised if you keep your ears open how many people are always talking about real estate, right? Like, everyone that's something that
Always.
we all have in common is where we live, right? Like, we all need a place to live. Like, that's we all have that in common, and I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know, I think there's so many opportunities that present itself along the way when we're busy doing something different. Like,
Well,
no.
in addition to is let's say hypothetically somebody joined your team and then they're still working the day job and then the boss at that job because again to your point you have no idea who you're going to bump into. That boss is like, oh, we're thinking about selling, and then they just say, you know what, I recently got my license and I'm interning with Alyssa. She is amazing. She's actually sold in
Mhm.
your neighborhood and yada yada yada. You two absolutely have to meet. And then that agent just says to you, "Hey, can we just partner on this? Like, I don't wanna
Yes.
run with it. I just wanna learn from you, and I'll shadow you so I can learn, but I just give me we'll split it 50-50 or whatever."
Yeah.
And they get an amazing opportunity to learn. They actually watch you in action, and I think that's so incredibly that's one piece that's way overlooked is not only
100%. They can lean
having
on your reputation and your stats. I mean, I'm a big sports person too, so they can lean on your stats to
yes.
give them the confidence that they need and to assure whoever they're talking to, like, "Look, I might not have all the answers, but I've got access to somebody." I mean, and really that's what real estate is, right?
It's
Like,
just
we
access.
are people that have access to
Yeah.
whatever somebody needs. We can solve that problem,
Yeah.
and if we don't, I guarantee I'm gonna do everything I can to figure it out. Like, and that's the confidence that I have. I mean, I know there's agents that are fantastic, but when I feel like, okay, I'm always confident in my ability to figure it out, and I feel like that's a lost skill in our world
Yeah.
today because so many people just wait for other people to figure it out. So,
It's so funny, it's really cool to hear you say that because that's my badge of honor. Like, I did not do great in school, but I have the ability to figure it out. Like, whatever
yeah,
I don't give a crap what the hurdle or curveball is, I'm going to figure it out. Like, hell or high
yeah,
water, and not only that, give me an hour or 2, I will figure it out. I'll be hammering phone calls, and I will bang down doors to figure out who's got the answer to solve that problem for whatever that thing is. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's,
I was just having that conversation with my daughter yesterday because she's a freshman in college, and in high school, she got 100%, I think, on every test, and that was not me. But I was like, I have prepped her. I'm like, when you get to college, just know that's not gonna happen, and
yeah,
that does not dictate what you should feel about your ability. Like, what
yeah,
you should feel is you're gonna try as absolutely hard as you can and lay it all out there, and whatever grade you get back, that's fine. But
yeah,
I mean, that's one of the best places I learned that what matters is my effort, right?
yeah.
Like, in college, like, what matters is my effort and how I feel good about that, and then the rest of it falls into place, truly.
Well, and you can just remind her that Uncle Sean said half of the people in her
Yeah,
class are gonna finish in the bottom half.
right.
So it's fine.
It's true, and D's get degrees. She didn't like that answer, but, like, I was like, truly, nobody asks me what my GPA was in college.
No
Not
one.
when was the last person that asked you that? Nobody asked you that, right? That does not dictate your success,
It
and
does
so,
not.
all I care about as a parent is that you're trying hard. If you're not trying hard,
Yeah.
and that's the same with an agent. Like, when I've had agents join the team, if they're not working hard, I lose respect. Like,
Yeah.
I wanna see the hustle. I want to see, and then I will reward that hustle. Even if you make a mistake, like,
Yes.
just tell me that you made a mistake, we can figure it out. But if you're working super hard, that's what I respect.
It's
So,
funny, I wanna hire the puppy. I want
yes,
the
the
one
hungry.
who's just, like, hungry and excited, and it's, like,
Yeah,
the worst project in the world. They're like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. I love it. I can't wait to get started." And you're like, "That's my
yeah.
person. I love that." Um,
It's
it's
harder to find than you think.
it is very hard to find, very hard to find. But one thing I did, because I'm the same, I very much value hustle, and
Mhm,
not the unhealthy version of it, but the drive to figure it out and crack the nut,
mhm. Yeah,
is
yeah.
the hustle I value. And so I actually wrote into our contract that you have 3 months to write a contract.
Oh,
Otherwise, you're off the team.
do you
And
make
so
a do you reward agents by how much they do every year in terms of volume or contract like, how many contracts they get?
yeah, so it's interesting. I played with a whole bunch of different stuff. What I did for a period of time is I had a structure where it would reset every year, but as you made more sales, you'd get higher and higher splits. And then
Hmm,
I had a really fascinating conversation with Mark Hernandez down in LA. And he was sharing with me that he really valued the longevity, and it made me rethink the way that I structured it. And so changed it where as you progress in sales, you eventually move to a better and better split to the agent's favor, and then you
mhm,
just stay there. And so it
hmm.
as you make more and more sales, the longevity of being with me, the
You
better
get
it works.
rewarded for that.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
doesn't reset, like, it just gets better and better over time, but there's
I
the
like that.
caveat is if you don't produce a contract, it doesn't have to close, you just have to write a contract, it doesn't even have to stick, like, you just have to do the action because all the activities that you do behind that, the following up, the open houses, the door knocking, that all lead to your open house, so if you're not hustling and doing those activities, you're not gonna get the opportunity to write, and then you're ultimately gonna get booted from the team. Do I
It's
make
similar, I
exceptions?
mean,
Of
yeah.
I do. Like, I will 100% make if you're really genuinely out there and you can show me, like, "Man, I'm just eating it right now, but I have these 3 A buyers, they're just not ready," or whatever, then, of course, I will give you an extension. But if
It's a
I'm
I
like
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but if I'm recapping with you and you're like, "Well, I caught up on, Netflix and, I watched the whole season of, whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, time to go."
It's out. I'm trying to figure it out because, I mean, I know sometimes Zillow is a swear word for a lot of people, but I've been a a Zillow Premier agent for a lot of years.
Yeah.
In the last probably 3 or 4 years, I don't know that it's really given me any value on the money that I've spent. And of course,
Oof.
they've changed to this flex program now, and a
Yeah,
lot of
heard.
that. So it's been interesting as I mean, we just barely started it. So I'm having to go back and like figure out how to restructure like splits and all that stuff. And part of it, I mean, Zillow is rewarding people by their hustle basically and their ability to convert. And so I'm like, do I do that too on my team? But I'm a big person that's like, do unto others, right? Like, I want to
Yeah.
treat somebody the way I would have wanted to be treated if I was in their shoes.
Yeah.
Um, but I
That's
almost think sometimes I don't know, like I'm too nice, right?
yeah.
So anyway, I was just kind of curious about how you structured that.
My filter when I rewrite or work on any of this stuff, I always run it through the filter of, would I sign this?
Yeah.
Would I
Because
actually
why
put
would
my
you ask anybody not to? Do
right.
something that you wouldn't do yourself, right? And that's when I'm
Um,
selling a house too, getting people to commit to I'm like, "I wouldn't tell you to do this if I wouldn't do it myself." Like,
right.
anyway,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
here are the red flags. If you're comfortable with these, then I would put pen to paper. If you're not,
Yeah,
then I would explore these
right.
further, really figure it out. Do you know, David, Schlichter out of, Boulder?
I don't his name sounds familiar though.
He's a really interesting guy to talk to as well. So, they do kind of the whole split structure, but then with working with agents, they're not employees, so we can't tell them what to do. So, what
Yeah.
he does is a percentage that the business is receiving goes into a fund. And then if, for example, the person gets a five-star review, then they get a little percentage of
Oh, that's
that
kinda cool,
bonus.
like a bonus of sorts.
And
Yeah.
if they like hit X amount of sales, they get this other little bonus or whatever the important drivers for the team are. If they collaborated with another agent and helped them out, they get a little boof, a little extra
Oh, I love
boost.
that. Yeah.
And he was telling me at the close of the year, it was 6 figures that he wound up paying back to the team. And so
That's
it
really
was
cool.
like a really nice bonus, not only for them being committed to working together for the year, but then doing all of these other important drivers that were really important to the collective whole.
I mean, just bring that to like a sports analogy. Those are like the theory of the 2 different kind of coaches, right? The coach that is just like positively reinforcing, and then the coach that's like super hard expectations and just yelling and tearing people apart on the court.
Yeah.
Generally, the coach that is making these athletes believe in themselves more than they believe in themselves. Does that make sense? That's the coach that usually has a higher success rate in my point, and who people actually want to play for
Yeah.
and be recruited to. So anyway,
Yeah. I mean, I ran a
I
comfort
like
store
that. So I
for
feel like that, like reinforcing the positives and not necessarily the A's, right? Like it's other little things too. I think like working and collaborating, and I love that. That's a great idea. I might have to give him a
yeah, and
call.
I mean, the end of the day, the A players are getting paid. Like, they're closing deals, they're getting paid
Yeah,
consistently, and
yeah.
so you can have a B player who's only did, let's say, 5 deals, but they have five-star reviews on each of those and all these other, like, key data points that are aligned with the company, and they can still get a really nice, healthy bonus for that.
So do you cut dead weight in terms with your team,
Yeah,
or
I'm
do you just
too
wait and be patient?
I I really struggle. That's an area I struggle because I I believe in people, and
Mhm.
I sometimes believe people, and I
Which are 2 that's great. I love that. Yeah.
and so sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, let me just because I know in my business, it's like if I can just get in front of one more person,
Yes.
and it's always that
I
one
just need
more
this connection, and yeah, I
and so
got it.
I sometimes, to a fault, think someone is similar to me, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
and I feel like
100%.
they can do it, they just need one more open house, they just need one more coffee date,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I it's like the addict at the slot machine is I just need to pull it one
Just
more
one
time.
more pull. Yeah. Just
And
one more
so
pull. That's funny.
I keep giving them one more pull way too many times. And so that's where I had to just hardline it and say, "Hey, I think 3 months is very reasonable." Like, you
Yeah.
just
I
have
like
to
that.
write a contract. And sometimes writing a contract in my
And is
mind
that with a lead that you provide or someone that they bring?
depends. It
Mm.
doesn't like
Just
I
doesn't
don't
matter. Just
it
a
doesn't
contract.
it could be so if you get a buyer who signed a buyer broker agreement, that counts. And if you
Mhm.
get a purchase agreement signed, that counts. Like, there's so many little things that count. If if hypothetically you went to 3 listing appointments and you got none of those, that counts. Like, you got
I do like that. Yeah.
like,
Because that's
to
a
me
refined skill. That takes over time. Yeah.
and
That
that's
takes
but
time.
that means you've had tons of conversations, you worked, you followed up, you actually got in front of them, and, of course, I would love to problem solve why you didn't get those 3 and definitely
Mhm.
remedy that, but I would count that, and so I think there's,
There's a
like
great agent in our area who started probably 2 years ago. I knew her from the gym, and she was an athlete in college too, so we just kinda had a lot in common, and, anyway, I've watched her grow her business just through service. So it made me think about it because you mentioned coffee, like taking people out to coffee. Well, truthfully, how many people ask me to coffee? I'm like, I don't wanna do that. I don't have time for that. I don't like, I would rather go do something together, you know? So, she's done it with, like, "I'm just gonna go serve. I'm gonna go serve at the food bank. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna do,"
brilliant.
and it's been amazing because not only does her cup get filled through serving other people,
Love that.
but she is meeting people that want to use her because they understand her heart and her service, and
Yeah,
I think if there is somebody that I point to, like, if you're new, watch her because
yeah,
she has just done it very quickly, and that's how she's done it, is through service. I think that's a brilliant way to grow somebody's business. Anyway,
that's I love that. I mean, you're
yeah,
getting in front of people and you're doing something really good.
yeah.
Like,
And
it's a
she's great too. I mean, she's competent, she's good, and
yeah,
she's like I mean, she's like us, like, I can figure it out. I might not have the answer, but I can figure it out. And that's the other thing I think is super important for
yeah.
agents is, like, don't give people the BS of, "I've got it all down." None of us have it all down. Like, we're always learning, and we're always trying to get better. So,
Yeah, I think that's to your point is be honest, is say, "Hey, I
yeah,
don't have the answer, but I will get it to you by the end of the day."
yeah.
Like, that's a
And nobody
totally
sees any fault in that. I
no.
don't.
"Hey,
In fact, I like it.
I need to call an attorney really quick. Let me get
Yeah,
back to you in an hour." Like, no one's
yeah.
gonna be like, "Oh, I can't believe you. Shame on you." It's like
Right. No, they'll appreciate the hustle and your ability to figure it out and feel
yeah.
confident in your ability to figure it out.
And
Anyway.
shit, I would be impressed that you knew who to call, they took your call, and they gave you the answer. I would give
Yes.
a nod for that.
100%. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Alright,
I
here's a
mean, I
question
feel
for
like we've
you.
got it all figured out.
I fake it till you make it is the other rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly.
So do you think anybody can be a great agent?
Mm, that's a good question. Because, right, I've seen a lot of agents. Um, I think, I've seen agents that maybe have great personalities, but struggle with systems. I've
Mm,
seen agents that don't necessarily have great personalities, so to speak, but they dive into the systems that they learned in, like, Tom Ferry or Feeney or whatever, and somehow they've created this incredible business, right? Like you said, I almost feel like there's somebody for everybody. A great agent, I don't know. I think that's probably the same asterisk we put on luxury, right? Like, how's that for a politically correct answer?
that is
Right?
amazing.
Like, what constitutes a great agent? To me, a great agent
Good
is
question.
somebody that like, truly goes all in and is doing their job with their heart
Yeah.
and doing their best. right? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean all the numbers are there, because some people just, I don't know. There's some agents that have an it factor,
Yeah.
right? That you can't teach. They have it or they don't.
Yeah.
Um, but then I also know quite a few agents that are just kinda, they're doing
Mm.
a good job with the system, so they're getting work. Um, and I can't fault, I mean, I think they're working hard, so I appreciate that. I think that they're good agents too. I think they just have a hard time attracting business all the time because,
Mm.
I don't know, personality. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but, I do think, agents are expected to kind of be the be all type of people.
Yeah.
Entertainers, like, competent, all of it, right? Like, if there is a profession that requires pretty much just a refined set of skills all the way around, marketing, contracts, but that's also why I love the job. People, like, I love all of the facets of the job, and it's like,
Um,
that's what drives me. I mean, because it never gets old. Like, yeah, it's really great.
it
But
does
that's a good
scratch.
I'm gonna have to stew on that.
I mean, it's a great answer because I don't.
Do you think all agents can be any person can be a great agent?
It's funny. Like as you were answering, I kept like swaying back and forth in my mind because I was like, "Oh, you made a good point." Well, no, and then I'm like, and I keep moving back and forth, and so I think it depends, I guess, on how you define great. Is
Yeah.
is kind of the is It depends, and so I think
How do you define it?
that's a
Like,
great
you
question.
personally. I think that's a hard question to answer. I've never thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to like, well, it'd be equally as hard as if I said, "Can they be successful?" And you're like, well, again, it depends on how success is defined. Like
Yeah.
doing what, like 50 transactions a year or 5? Like, what is the definition
Because
of
I
success?
also, and you probably know, I know a couple agents in our area that do a lot of business, have big teams, but I don't think they're a great agent.
Oh,
Like, I don't
yeah.
I think there's lying, I think there's, like, I don't know, I just don't, like, I wouldn't look at them and think, "Yeah, that's somebody that I would," like, I avoid a transaction with them if I can.
It's funny. I've had clients avoid transactions with them. I had a client look at a property
Oh,
and they
yeah,
said literally, like these were my really good
"This
friends
guy
and
has it listed, I don't wanna do it."
my buddy's an attorney and he was like, "I love the property. We're not writing on it. I hate that agent." And he's like, "I do not want to
Yes,
put you through
I've
that."
had that same, that's who I seriously. And so
Yeah.
people that use them are usually coming, like, from out of town, but I'm like, "That is a bummer," right? Like,
Weird,
you would
right?
look at him statistically and think, "Yeah, they've got it all figured out," but I I wouldn't consider,
Yeah.
I don't
Y
know.
So it's interesting. I think my answer is yes and no. Is I think they c I think an agent can be there great, like whatever however they're defining that. But I think
Like,
if it's
that's the trophy for participation.
yeah. But I think it's if it's in alignment with the thing that's bringing them joy, right? Because
Yes, I
I
like
think
that.
it's like if you're waking up every day and you're putting up the number, you got $100 million in production, but you loathe the job and you
Mhm.
loathe marketing and you just like are resentful and it's just sucking your
That's
soul.
not
Then
fulfilling.
I
Right.
think it sucks. Like I think no, I think
Yeah.
it should be like if you want to go weave baskets, then that's what you should actually be doing. Um,
Mhm.
but I think from like a competency, no, I don't think everybody can do it. I also don't think everybody can be a singer. Like,
Agreed.
right? Like some
Yeah.
people are tone
Or a
deaf
dancer, that's
and
probably
there's
even
nothing wrong
smaller.
with it. Like I think, yeah. So no, I don't, it's like as I'm like thinking about it and unpacking it in my own mind, it's like I don't actually think everybody's an entrepreneur. Like my mom, I love her to death, but she had
100%.
no appetite for risk. And being an entrepreneur is all about risk. My dad
Mhm.
loves risk. Like
Mhm.
like put me at the helm, I'll figure it out. I'll build this thing. Like that's his DNA.
Or
But I
drive,
wouldn't
right? Like,
in
you
drive and
can't
just
teach
like
drive. Yeah.
and so but then I look at my parents, for example. I wouldn't go to my mom for business advice, and I wouldn't go to my dad for family advice
Yeah. No, I think that's so true.
because
That's
that's
very
just
true.
not like their strengths.
Mhm.
That's outside of their strength. So that's outside of their greatness, if you will. And so I no,
But
now
it
that
is
I'm
a
like,
really hard, like, conversation to have with people when you can see that probably this isn't the best profession for them,
yeah,
but to, like, how to and I feel like I'm pretty decent at conversations and hard conversations, but that's one
yeah,
that I'm like, I don't know, that's just it's just a hard
yeah.
so I guess as I'm unpacking it too, I don't know that this profession is cut out for everybody, like, truly. There's different parts of the profession, like, whether if you're super good at contracts, but maybe not so good with people, then become an operations manager,
Right,
become a
or a
like,
TC.
there's so many aspects that people don't realize that are there, that are
Yeah.
great, but, not everyone needs to be the big in your face agent. Not that I'm
Well,
in your face, but you know what I
it's
mean.
interesting and to your point earlier about, like, kind of being on that cusp of starting to think about bringing people in under you, and that wasn't something you did before. It's not dissimilar of like, some people are phenomenal solo agents. Some, like
Mhm.
Andy Bovender out of the Carolinas, he's
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal at building teams. He has a
Yeah.
47-person team. That's
Yeah.
his strength. And so, I think to imply the solo agent would crush it doing what he does or vice versa, that's not true either. And so, I think finding your intersection of greatness and application within this is that's kind of where the magic happens. So, I think if I were to give a refined answer, I would say no. Not every agent can
I
do it,
agree. I concur. We
but
figured it out.
not as a negative either. Like
No.
as like a
No,
really awesome
thankfully, not
thing.
everybody can be great because we don't need that. I mean, that's the beauty of, like, being individuals, and working as a collective. I mean, you think of a football team, like, you can look at a football team and there's so many different sizes and bodies and weight strengths and quickness but they all have to work together to create, like, the magic that
Yeah.
happens in a game,
Or not
like
only that, but you have to have the ticket taker. You have to.
Yeah,
Right? You
that's
have to
true.
have you have to have the person tending the field. You have to
Yeah.
have the ref. Like, you have
Yep.
to have the coach. You have to
Mhm.
have these other
And that coach
things.
has 5 different coaches, and they have an athletic director. Like, there's so many people that are involved in putting it all together. Anyway.
But yeah, and so it's when you start pulling at it that way, it
Yeah,
then starts making sense of
yeah,
like, no, and then on the other side, it should not be implied that the pressure of these agents should be, because I think, if you unpack it or you compare it to football, some agents might do amazingly well being on a team, while others would do amazingly well building the team. And so,
100%.
like, looking at it from those different nuanced lenses, I think is important.
Well, just I mean, I was at a college volleyball game this last weekend, and one of my things that I'm passionate about is giving the spotlight to the people in the background, right? So,
Love that.
yes, there's the 6 players that are on the court, but there's also the rest of those players that are on the sidelines, that their job is almost harder because they work to get these 6 players in their ready position, but they don't get any glory at the college level. Like, it's a different in high school and stuff, everyone gets to go in, and even in club, right? Parents play to have their kids play, so they're gonna probably get time even if but in college, it's different. They own you, right? So they
Yeah.
don't have to give you any time. Yet those people spend the same amount of time, travel, the same amount of work, And the players that are on the court would not be as good as they are had they not had that adversity to play against every year. So I always make it an effort to just go, give them a shout out. And that's the true for any good agent
Yeah.
is going to have, whether it be their title people, their lender, whether it's going to be like those people all help bolster the agent that's in the game
Yeah.
type of thing. So
I love that. That's a great way to end this, but it's such a nice it's just such a nice way to think about it.
mhm.
That agent who's seemingly the star is not there
Yeah,
alone. Like all these
right.
there's
And it's
so
important for
many.
that agent to remember that. Like,
Yes.
I can't do what I do with without my transaction manager. I can't, or my
Yeah.
photographer, or my loan officer, or the title. Like,
Yeah.
none of that comes together without all those people. And they probably don't get the same recognition that they should, but I try. So
That's it. I love that. I really appreciate it. And on that, I'll give a special thanks to Marissa, who does all the post-production on this. And so
thank you, Marissa. Make sure I look really good.
just the
And
lighting and the sound.
sound really smart. Like, the goal is to sound smart so I can, yeah, I'm just kidding.
Awesome. This has been so fun. Thank you for
Oh,
taking the
good,
time.
good. Well, thank you. It's been a highlight. That was really fun. You're easy to talk to, so I hope I didn't say too much or too little or whatever, so
It was amazing. And that's a wrap.
good.